I seek leave to introduce the National Lottery Protection Essential Fund Bill 2018. Members of the House will be aware that back in 1986 the Oireachtas established the National Lottery in legislation that was enacted that year. At the time there may have been some opposition to the fact that the state was putting into place a lottery which was a form of gambling, but part of the reason why it was supported by the Oireachtas back then, and indeed by the public, is because the legislation was very clear in that it provided that money, and significant amount of money, would be available for what was referred to as good causes. In many respects, the National Lottery replicated the good parts of the hospital sweepstakes that operated in Ireland from 1930 until the 1980s, and in which a lot of money was donated by the sweepstakes to hospitals, public hospitals in Ireland. Under the legislation that was introduced in 1986, there was a specific provision contained within the bill which ensured that good causes would be met and money would be available for those good causes. We know, and government will be well aware, that the good causes are established in the legislation, and it allows government to make disbursements to certain areas specified in the legislation. For instance, money can be allocated to sport and recreation, national culture and heritage, the arts, health of the community, youth welfare and amenities, natural environment and such other objectives as the government may determine from time to time. Amending legislation was introduced in 2013. Under Section 40 of that legislation, it specifically provided that 50% of the monies collected by the National Lottery had to be available for prize money. It also provided in Section 41 that the Good Cause Fund, as it was then called, should be available and has a statutory basis. At present, we know that 28% of the monies received by the National Lottery are devoted to these good causes. In practical terms, it means that every year approximately €225 million is available for good causes, and that is something that's not just available in an individual year. We know that going back to 30 years or so, there have been significant amount of good projects in this country that have been funded by the National Lottery. The reason this legislation has been introduced is for the purpose of trying to protect the Good Cause Fund. At present, it is the case that there are a number of unregulated offshore companies which are offering bets on the National Lottery. Obviously, if the amount of money is collected by the National Lottery decreases, so does the amount of money available for the good cause funds. And as I say, that there are approximately 15 bet-on lottery operators active in the Irish market, and it's likely that this number will increase. These operators allow people, instead of purchasing lottery tickets, they bet on the 6 numbers that may be drawn out by the National Lottery. Obviously, people are entitled to bet on things, but the effect of this is that the amount of money being received by the National Lottery declines, and consequently the amount of good cause money available decreases also. The purpose of the legislation is to put in a particular condition in respect of the betting acts. The Act seeks to overcome the threat to the fund by prohibiting operators from taking bets on lottery products. Such prohibition, in my opinion, is proportionate and reasonable in light of the public interest in preserving and protecting the fund. What the Act does, or the bill does, is it proposes to insert a condition that will attach to a bookmaker's licence or a remote bookmaker's licence, and it will require that all such licences contain a condition that such licence cannot include an entitlement to bet on the outcome of any lottery game under the National Lottery Acts operated within or outside the state. I'm fully aware that at present the National Lottery, in many respects like the sweepstakes, is run by a private company. But it's different to other forms of gambling, it's different to other forms of lottery, since it was established by the Oireachtas for the purpose of the public benefit. The Good Cause Fund, which produces, as I say, 28% of all monies taken in by the lottery, is useful and is for the public benefit. Because of that, I think it is appropriate that we deal with the threat to the monies raised by the National Lottery. We know from other jurisdictions, such as Australia, that the amount of funds available have decreased because of the operation of these offshore, unregulated operators who allow betting on the outcome of lottery, and the purpose of the legislation is to prohibit that. So I seek leave to introduce.